Hey everyone, my name is Darby and I work in the Incubation Engineering Department at GitLab. This is the DevOps for Mobile demo for August 19th. I've got an issue with the details from this week's demo, which I'll share. So this week was primarily focused on iOS. Spent some time getting Mac runners set up. And so I've captured some of the details in here. So the first link that I've got in here is the GitLab Build Cloud macOS runners, which is an initiative by the runner team to set up shared runners on GitLab.com. They're making a lot of progress here. Things are getting pretty close. And there's a beta sign up here too. So if you're interested in that, you can check that out. Now this would be runners that GitLab hosts, and you can just connect them to your projects. So the other thing that I wanted to do is just go through the process of setting that up myself. So that's kind of what the next section is about. So I kind of wrote up a quick setup guide to kind of walk through those steps, and I'll jump into that in a second. So the setup guide and the work that I did this week was primarily focused on getting a single node running a single runner instance, so you could run one job at a time. And so that is working. I've got that working with this sample project here. So I found a new iOS sample project that is kind of better suited for what we're trying to test with. It's got better test scenarios and things like that. So this is a project called Hackers, which is a Hacker News client. And so you can, much like the other ones, you can see the code here. And this is just a fork from the project on GitHub. And so I have the source listed there too. And then I've got links to the builds that I ran. And the template that we have for iOS largely works for what we were doing. This project already had Fastlane set up. And so it was kind of not a real issue to get that working. And then I've got the example CI configuration here too. So pretty straightforward. We've got kind of the setup stuff with Bundler and CocoaPods installs. And then we're just kicking off either a Fastlane build or a Fastlane test. And then I've got the tags in here as well, which tell it to run on the Mac runner that I set up instead of the normal Linux runners. So that's pretty much that. It works well. Let me jump into the setup guide here. So the setup was somewhat challenging, so I wanted to kind of get some of the quirks captured as I worked through it. So what I did, my process for this was to just grab a provision an instance at Mac Stadium. And so I got an iMac or a Mac Mini over there. And they just give you, you can go in through screen sharing, or you can SSH into the machine and do what you need to do with it. So I went through that process a few times to kind of get this whole flow in place. And so I'll kind of walk through some of this here. It's really focused on setting up a machine for kind of doing a Fastlane build. So it's focused on getting Homebrew set up and getting a Ruby environment set up and things like that. So let's see. So there's some quirks around getting this going. The first of it being that the new macOS versions are shipping with Z shell as their default. I want to switch that to Bash because of some of the requirements for getting the Bash profile to load on a non-interactive shell, which is the way that the runner executes on the Mac machines. So that's what that step does. Then we go through and we install Homebrew, and we once Homebrew is installed, then we can install RBM and the GitLab runner. And so that's pretty straightforward. And then this is kind of configuring RBM to load, and then installing a version of Ruby and setting that as a global. Once we have that all in place, the installing Xcode is probably the process that takes the longest. And there's several ways to do it, through the App Store, through the developer portal, or there's a really interesting project called Xcode install. And it's almost like trying to be a version manager for Xcode. I tried it out. It worked pretty well, but there was a few bugs in it. So it may or may not work for everyone's use case, but it's something interesting to follow along with. And then there's a couple commands here too that I've captured that you need to run kind of to get Xcode to work properly. This one here accepts the licenses and does the some additional component installation. And then this sets up the developer directory, which is so that the Xcode build tools know where to get the proper tools that it needs to run the jobs. So these are just a couple things that you have to kind of, some settings you have to tweak to get it to work. From there, then we just register a GitLab runner. And so I've got some notes on how to do that. And then I have a section in here talking about setting up the tags for that too. Once that's all in place, then all we have to do is take that CI YAML file, throw that into the project, and then the builds will kick off. So that's kind of the walkthrough there. I'd love some feedback on this. If you've worked in this and you see some things that could be improved or other ideas on how to approach this, let me know. I think this would be handy to have in the doc somewhere. And so looking for some feedback on that too. Let's see, that's pretty much the update from this week. Oh, and then one other thing is I created a weekly demos issue here. So this is going to be an issue where I'm just posting all of the recordings and the issues for these weekly demos as they get published. And then I'll add a comment in here too. So if you want to, if you're interested in this topic, you can subscribe to this issue and then you'll get all the latest updates when they come out. So the up next for next week's work, I'm going to focus on cleaning up the Android example from last week, which is something that I didn't work on this week, just to try to simplify that one a bit. And then I think there's some opportunities to improve the job performance on both the iOS and Android samples through using some caching. So we don't have to download these packages every single time we run a job. And then I think from there, it would make sense to work on some updates to the iOS and Android CI templates. So I'll get that going. And then I think some blog posts would be nice too, to kind of to share some of this out to a wider audience. So that's the main stuff. Feel free to add any comments or ask questions in this issue. I'll link this issue in the description for the YouTube video too. So that's all I have for this week. Thanks for watching.